Well, the Seahawks looking into the draft only 6 days away. But what players should be on the radar? But what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and this is the All Around Sports Cast. I'm your host, Antonio. Today, we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks players I believe they should draft that are both on the radar and off the radar. What I mean by off the radar is some people that I think some people are overlooking for potential Seahawks superstars in the future. But here's how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be going over each of the individual stats of from 5 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 of each side. So I'm going to do 5 of both on the radar and off the radar. I'm going to do them in the particular order I have them stated. So first off, on the on radar side, I have Graham Barton an O lineman out of Duke. Now, from what I know about this guy, he is a great pass protector. He had 258 pass block snaps, including only allowed 2 sacks, 0 hits, and 9 hurries. If you look at the Seahawks with him, this would be huge and tremendous for the Seahawk offense to get more protection on Geno Smith. I know lots of people are looking at Fatani, which I'll be mentioning here in a little bit. But this Graham Barton is, I believe, another great option if they cannot get Fatanu, which I'll be going over him in a little bit. Now we move to off the radar. A player I think that they're overlooking is Theo Johnson, a tight end out of Penn State. Now, we know the tight end situation is pretty much almost solved because we only got 2 tight ends right now, Pharaoh Brown and Noah Fant. One that I've seen been put into discussion, which I believe should happen, Theo Johnson recorded for 341 yards last season, along with 7 touchdowns. And also, this guy's a great blocking tight end too, which is what the Seahawks need, which is one of the reasons they let go of Uncle Will and also along with Kobe Parkinson's. They let them go because they weren't pass blocking tight ends. They weren't blocking tight ends. They were only receiving tight ends. So now the Seahawks can go out there and get a blocking tight end. And Theo Johnson, I think, would be a spectacular addition to this team. But one I think that is on the radar for the Seahawks that I think they're going to look at. Now, this guy has had some comparison to Cam Chancellor along with Earl Thomas, which that person is James Williams. Now, James Williams, he recorded for 4 interceptions in his total time up in Miami in part of the Hurricanes. But this guy, I've looked at his highlights. He can read out plays in a snap. He can read out plays. He can land those punishing blows. He is amazing. He gives me vibes of what Cam Chancellor brought to the Seahawks during his time in the Legion of Boom. But, of course, it would not be called that because there's only one Legion of Boom. If they are to get a new name, they would have to come up with one. But James Williams, I think, is going to be one of the few looked at the safety position because I think they're going to go after another safety in the draft. But we'll see what happens there. Another player I have on the list of off radar is at number 4. And I put this one up because he comes from this university right here, Washington State. And I put him up here because his stats say it all. Jaden Hicks. Now, let me explain. Jaden Hicks had 2 INC, 2 interceptions, and a touchdown last season, along with 2.5 sacks. From what I've seen from this kid out of Washington State, my mom actually was a graduate from Washington State, if you are curious. My mom was a graduate from there, so I watched their game that they had against Oregon State. And he was playing his mind out. And he was showing up in the biggest of moments. And the defense of Washington State played really well that game. Also in the loss that they had to suffer against Washington. But they played really well. But Jaden Hicks is another player I have listed on the off-the-radar side. Now back to the on-radar side of things. I have Tre'Davious Sweat. Now, he was recently involved in some sort of police scandal, which if I remember correctly, I didn't really look this up, but I heard about it. It was, I think he was speeding or something. But this guy, regardless of resume, he is a playmaker on defense. He can get up there and get sacks. Let me go over these stats with you. Total tackles, TOT, 4.5. Pass deflections, 12. Total sacks, 2. And this guy can stop runs, which is what the Seahawks need. They need a guy that can get up there and cause some pressure on the running backs and get those stops, especially with Christian McCaffrey in the division. You need to find a way to stop him, and Tre'Davious Sweat, I think, is going to be a primary reason that they'll go after a defensive lineman in the draft. But we'll, of course, wait and see. Another player I have listed on the list, he was injured for parts of last year for the Miami Hurricanes, but I believe this guy has some potential. Leonard Taylor. Now, Leonard Taylor, he recorded throughout his career up in Miami. He recorded for 6 sacks and 1 touchdown. He is a playmaker. He can show up on the defensive side. He can show up in ways that you would never see. And Leonard Taylor, I think, is going to be a star in the league. I mean, sure, people are questioning him about his injuries, which probably a lot of people are with both Michael Penix and some others. But this Leonard Taylor, I think, is a really good choice for kind of an under-the-radar pick. Now we move back to the on-radar side to number 2. Now, this guy's had some comparison to T.J. Watt from what I've seen from some of the reports and his stats. Latia Latu. So, Latu, he is amazing. I've watched his stats when he was up in UCLA, and I looked up his stats. It says here that he has set 13 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. And Latu, oh man, he is a guy I want. He is one of my wanted players list because this man, the Seahawks need a defensive playmaker like him. They need a person that can show up. And Latu, I think, would be perfect for that situation. But, of course, now we move back to the off-radar side. I have this one up here because it comes from Utah, a safety that has been, I believe, overlooked. I've watched his highlights, and I believe he has potential. And it's Sione Vake. Now, Sione Vake last year recorded for 2 sacks and an interception. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Because they were one of the top teams of the Pac-12 during the last 3 years. They won the Pac-12 for the last 2 years, for the last 3 years. 2 times in the last 3 years, which we all know is now extinguished. But the Sione Vake is an amazing safety. He can read out plays. He can snuff out guys on the edge, especially plays that are taking place behind the line of scrimmage. He can make those tackles, and I think that he's going to be a major must-look-at guy on the under-the-radar side. And then last but not least, not a big surprise here on the on-radar side, Troy Fautanu. You knew I was going to go over him, and he's number 1 on my list on this. Because here's the thing. He can do well on both sides, on pass block and run block. His total pass block pass snaps were 360 and 68. His total pass block snaps were 623. And he was a part of the championship team that went to the national championship just this past year, but ultimately couldn't finish it to the hands of Michigan. But Troy Fautanu, I think, is going to be a must-look-at guy for the Seahawks because they need that protection on the O-line. But now the last player on this list, I put him up here because I think that if he would come to Seattle, then this guy would be a truck for this team, a truck playmaker. And this guy comes out of Clemson. He is a linebacker, and he gives me vibes of an old Seahawk legend that's now with the Commanders in Bobby Wagner. And this guy is Jeremiah Trotter Jr. This guy has been amazing in Clemson. And I actually looked up some stats here. And it says here he recorded for 13 total sacks in his career at Clemson. Also along with 3 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, and 2 touchdowns in his career at Clemson. If this guy comes over to the Seahawks, and no matter what team he goes to, he is going to thrive under many guys. He's going to thrive in the NFL because Jeremiah Trotter is amazing. He is by far the top linebacker available in my mind because what this guy can do on the field is incredible. He can cover in the secondary, which is what the Seahawks need, other than the defensive rushing linebackers like Maffei and Taylor. But if Trotter comes to the Seahawks, I would be so stoked to see him come to the Seahawks. I would be stoked if he actually came over. But of course, we know the other teams are looking at different people, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, that's my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. I do want to hit 200 subscribers before the NFL draft hits. So if you guys do enjoy this video, please hit that subscribe button. I want to hit 600 subscribers before the NFL draft in 6 days as we speak from this video. But until then, to all Seattle fans, I'll catch you all in the next one. So long for now.